Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel for the next installment in our new figure showcase series, where we take a look at the latest new release getting added into my collection. And today is going to be an interesting one, and probably a shorter video than the usual ones, and realistically, it's not quite a figure. So we're going to be taking a look at the Lizard Diorama 6-scale base from Spider-Man No Way Home by Hot Toys. So I'll start by saying that I initially thought about holding off on looking at this until I got the Amazing Spider-Man Andrew Garfield figure, the new one, in hand, which hopefully has been released and will be shipping soon. Somehow, for some licensing reason, Hot Toys ended up having to split up the set and package the base as part of their No Way Home line, and basically package the Spider-Man figure as part of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 line. So as a result, they're definitely shipping separately. But anyway, I ended up deciding that it was worth taking a look at the base by itself, especially to compare it with the third-party Premier Toys Lizard that I actually really loved and have in hand. I know that might not be completely fair since one is a static piece while the other is an articulated figure, but I thought it was worth comparing. And look, this is definitely going to be part of the full Spidey review as well, because I think both pieces are very complementary to each other and are clearly meant to go together. So immediately, I'll tell you this thing is huge. And it really is giving you a feel, combined with the integrated suit base that came with the Doc Ock tentacles, that these are really going to be massive. In case, obviously, all the displays on the shows hadn't shown those to you. And they are going to take a bunch of space up in your display. But visually, it looks pretty impressive. Box is massive, and I'll re-show it next to the Amazing Spidey box for comparison. What was really interesting to me is that the torso portion of the Lizard actually seems kind of small, although I think that's also because the base itself is massive with a big footprint. So let's look at what comes in the set, which isn't much as expected, but you do get the base, which is pre-assembled, although it does come apart. You get the flexible flight stand with clamp for the figure, and you do get a sneaky accessory that'll go with your Amazing Spider-Man. And that's the serum that all three Peters come up with to basically cure our villains. So I do have to give credit to Hot Toys for thinking outside the box and figuring out a way to give us that piece. Now, the torso does socket into the base loosely, so don't try and pick up the diorama base from the Lizard or it'll slip. So definitely could have benefited from a stronger peg, but otherwise pretty straightforward assembly. So before looking at the base, let's look at the single accessory included here, which is the serum that the Peters developed to cure Dr. Connors. And it's made out of an aluminum water bottle with Peter's school logo printed on it. Really nice detail work there. And then the cap, which is the delivery mechanism, is really well done, showing pieces of duct tape holding down molded wiring to a cap of sorts. And the paintwork between the gold and silver and blue of the bottle is just a nice piece overall that I'm going to be looking to use with the corresponding Spidey figure. But now the base, and again, the size alone is impressive, and you can get a small idea seeing it rotating on the stand. And I do think, for getting the third-party Lizard, Hot Toys did a smart thing here, finding a way to give us a Lizard without breaking the bank. And this piece is basically just showing the Lizard breaking through some structure and reaching out to grab our heroes. It's a great dynamic pose, really giving you a feeling of movement. Is it as dynamic as the Doc Ock base? Not really, but I think it looks pretty impressive overall. And then again, the size of the base. You'll get a better idea once I pose it with the Spider-Man, since the Lizard is actually pretty big and the base is even bigger. There's a lot going on here with the nice action pose on the Lizard and a very expressive sculpt, but the rest of the base essentially showcases some kind of rubble that is created from the Lizard popping out of it. And you're seeing a lot of stones and pieces of concrete, some pipes, as well as a steel beam all projecting out. And the base also has some highlights of yellow and orange paintwork that I think go with the yellow lightning effects that are trickled throughout. So very much an allusion to Electro himself. Those lightning pieces are definitely things we've seen before, but they're still nicely done with the very random shapes and the color variations throughout. Again, giving the base a bit of a dynamic feel. I do feel like they could have had this have a light up function, sort of what we got with the Illusion Iron Man, just to give the figure, the base, a little more dynamic and lively feel. Paint apps are okay. Rocks are all gray with nice texturing to them. The pipe has some nice detail work to it as well. Is it 100% clear in high def? No, but it serves its purpose. The beam, though, is a highlight, showing that rusted texturing on it, as well as that nice light blue-green paint that you see on a lot of older steel. So I like that and appreciate that level of effort here as well. Now, the Lizard himself, I think, paint app-wise, pretty incredible. Green on the sculpt and the arms isn't just one continuous paint scheme. There are gradients here that work well with the textured lizard skin and blend in nicely with the lighter paintwork on his chest and arms. There's also a ton of detail work on the chest showing the different folds of skin, definitely giving that piece the reptilian feel. Hands also have a great paintwork and awesome detailing on the claws, really making them feel like separate pieces. Sculpt work is okay. There's great detail in the teeth and the open mouth with the more reptilian style tongue and the tissue holding the jaw together, but I want to save the sculpt discussion for a little later when we compare to the Premier Toys version. Now, the back of the figure is also well done, with a little bit of great sculpt work there on the musculature of the body, and again showing that nice variable green paintwork that also has a nice gloss to it to give the skin not just a textured feel but more of a reptilian wet look. Overall, really nicely done, and I do like the pose that was provided here a lot, since I think it'll lend itself to some interesting overall displays with the Spidey figure. Now, the reason I wanted to do this figure was to display the Lizard with the Premier Toys version. And again, I know it's a base versus an articulated figure, so as a result, I'm not sure comparison is totally fair. But why not do it regardless? So, first thing that immediately stands out is the color palette chosen for each version. Hot Toys base has a more vibrant paint app overall with the glossy green and the very yellow, more pale chest, while the Premier Toys one has a slightly more muted green, and the chest is a light green as well. Scale-wise, I did take some measurements and tried to replicate the same pose. They're very close, so I think both figures seem to be in the proper scale, but you can tell the Hot Toys one has a more defined musculature for the traps. But again, that seems to be more a function of the fully sculpted nature of the base. Now, the biggest item I wanted to look at were the sculpts, because while similar, there are some clear differences, and honestly, I have to rewatch No Way Home to try to see which is more accurate. I think they're both great. Hot Toys one seems a little more animalistic, while the Premier Toys version retains a lot more of the human look. And that also extends to the teeth and tongue, with the Hot Toys having a sharper teeth and the more angular tongue. I do still have to give credit to Premier Toys because they added those fine details like the translucent strands of saliva between the jaws that added a little more detail overall. And I do think that it's a clear difference. The Premier Toys version, to me, seems to have just a little more detail work on the sculpt, with the biggest highlight being the eyes. The work that they did on those eyes makes the sculpt come to life. They look almost glassy and moist, whereas the Hot Toys base actually has some painted eyes without the care they normally give their full figures. By contrast though, looking at the claws on the base, there's a lot more definition on those pieces with a nice separation between the skin and claw itself. In the Premier Toys version, the paint and detail work is less refined and almost seems to just blend together. Honestly, I'm really happy that I have both. I think it's clear with the base that Hot Toys didn't focus as much on the detail that they normally would have had this been a full figure release, but it works well as a companion piece to the figures. Now, I did think about using another Spidey, but frankly, I'm going to have this used when I get the Andrew Garfield in hand, so I figure I would just wait. But I do think it adds to a display with that great pose and the sheer size. Is it worth the cost? I think that's very much up to you. For me, it is. I think with the theme I'm going for, it was a no-brainer to get all the deluxe bases to just create a great shelf. But I do understand it's just a static piece. I mean, it is a cheaper option to getting a Lizard in your collection, which could also be a plus. Like I said, for me, it was a no-brainer, but I'm not sure that everyone will necessarily be jumping on this one. So that was a quick, unusual look at the Lizard Diorama base by Hot Toys from No Way Home. Interesting release due to the licensing issues, but glad that Hot Toys found a way to get this to us. And the base is going to make another appearance once I have that Andrew Garfield in hand, so won't be the last time you see it. So let me know your thoughts, and as always, thanks for watching, and if you are enjoying the content, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll touch base on the next video.